One of the biggest debates currently in the NBA from fans, pundits, experts, you name it, is the enigma that is Ben Simmons from the Philadelphia 76ers. The shooting guard, point guard, small forward, power forward, center? Who knows? That's kind of the crux of the issue. That is, we don't really know what type of position Ben Simmons plays. Is he a full-time point guard or is he a small ball center? Those vary great in terms of production value and responsibilities. Nevertheless, this is one of the debates that ring true all the time because Ben Simmons at size 6'10" can both handle the ball as well as he can play on the interior. So let's just lay out all the facts, and to help me do that is associate editor of Liberty Ballers, Tom West. Tom, welcome to the show. Now, let's just get into it. What type of position is Ben Simmons, or is he any position whatsoever?
I mean, I don't think you can really peg him into a typical position in a way. I think with him, it's about finding the right balance of his skill set. So I think if you wanted to just give him a label, I'd say point forward in a way, because I think his playmaking can get a little bit undersold sometimes if people just want to say, oh, he should be a small ball center, which isn't the case because he can't protect the rim like that. But I think if you find a balance of him, running point in fast breaks, situations, handling the ball obviously somewhat in the half court, being used as a roll man, screening and rolling, tapping into that sort of area, his physicality, then I think you almost get a bit of a blend of multiple positions, which is almost the strength of Ben Simmons in a way. He can do so many different things, it's just hard to peg him into one specific hole.
Interesting. So Tom, let's get into what does it give Philadelphia, given that Ben Simmons can play both the ball handler and the screener in pick and roll situations?
I mean, I think we saw it more and more as this season progressed. He was used more as a screener, much more than before. And partly his sort of strength in that area came through the extra opportunities. Brett Brown made a clear effort to use him more. He worked quite well with Josh Richardson in particular. But I think he made some actual personal developments as well. He didn't always set great screens before this season. He got better at setting strong screens consistently. And he also rolled to the rim with purpose a lot. He would attack the rim with much more aggression as the season went on, which had been a weakness for him before. He wasn't always consistent at that. So I think it's just a good way for the Sixers to get him attacking downhill more. It can help, free up some of their shooters. They're a very low usage team in terms of pick and roll play. They're always consistently at the bottom of the league with Brett Brown. So it's a good way to sort of diversify their offense a little bit. Shake Milton obviously sort of blossomed late in the season, before the season stopped. Quite a few of his minutes and his best games came after Ben Simmons' injury. But I think putting them two together is a good way to sort of utilise Shake as a ball handler and still keep Simmons going in that sort of screening and rolling sort of position. So I think it's just a good way to sort of shake up how Simmons is used, mix up their offense a little bit because their offense has been their main problem all season. Get some more out of their other guys like Shake.
So that actually brings me back a little bit to the first question, Tom, in terms of does it even matter whether he plays the point guard or the big man position? Is he more or less along the lines of a Giannis Antetokounmpo or a Luka Doncic, one of those players who plays a positionless brand of basketball?
Yeah, I think obviously Giannis is in another league, but yeah, it's the same kind of situation that they play so differently to so many players in the league. And if you want to, some people like to describe someone's position as what position they guard on defense. But again, Simmons is so unique there because he can switch everything from 1 to 5, really. He's not a rim protector per se. He's not a shot blocker. And that's why I think when some people say he should be a small ball center, that's not the case. He can't hold the back line of the defense in that way, but he can switch across different positions, take centers in the post and kind of do a bit of everything there. And so, I just don't think you can stick him with one label in a sort of Giannis type way.
Now, the big question from Sixers fans and basically NBA fans all over is, can Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons coexist together? Obviously, Embiid is a 7'2" behemoth center who scores near the basket at an elite rate. He's pretty much like this era's Shaquille O'Neal in many ways. Now, personally, I think there's a lot of benefits in the fact that you can stagger both Ben and Joel, given that Ben is really a downhill player, as you yourself said. But is it fair in making this assessment that it would be a good idea to basically stagger them? So when Joel Embiid is not in the game, that is where Ben Simmons' proficiency in scoring near the basket is more or less allowed.
Yeah, that's very fair. That's very fair. I mean, the Sixers hurt themselves by putting together a starting lineup with Al Horford that just doesn't really fit together on offense. So the way they can stagger their star players is key to being able to sort of maximize any potential they have for the playoffs. We saw obviously Al Horford, he played off the bench a little bit before the season came to an end. So that helps free up a little bit more of space. But again, I think particularly in lineups where, let's say Embiid is off the floor and Al Horford's in at center, he can be used as another sort of pick and pop guy, and we saw that work quite successfully with Simmons at times. So yeah, when Embiid is not there, you can get Simmons going in the pick and roll more when you've got more sort of willing shooters out there, or even if Al Horford is in at the center and he can stretch to the three a little bit as well.
Tom, thank you so much for coming on to break this down for us. Everyone out there should really go read your work at Liberty Ballers, where you're an associate editor. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, man.
So this is interesting, right? Basically, this becomes a question not whether or not Ben Simmons is a point guard or a center or a forward. It more or less boils down to how does he play alongside Joel Embiid and the rest of the crew. Now, you will need to flank him with shooting because Ben Simmons is not a shooter, at least not yet. But what is really interesting, and you hear this from Tom as well, is the fact that you need to actually get him to play more of a downhill brand of basketball. That means getting him out of transition and getting to the basket, much like Giannis Antetokounmpo and Luka Doncic and the rest of the players who can switch onto multiple positions. So at the end of the day, the conclusion here being, is Ben Simmons a center or a guard or a power forward or a small forward? Well, it doesn't really seem to matter.